Justin Ray, the Tiger Woods of golf researchers, is in Hazeltine for the KMPG PGA Championship, the third major on the LPGA Tour. And speaking of majors, we just completed the third major on the men's tour, and Wyndham Clark wins again at Shinnecock. Wire to wire, Justin, it's hard to argue that through all 4 rounds, he wasn't the best player out there on a very difficult course. And now, what do we think, and how do we discuss Wyndham Clark? He's a 2-time U.S. Open winner, just like Bryson DeChambeau. He's won as many majors as Xander Schauffele. He has proven in every way, shape, and form he can handle the pressure at the biggest moments and come through. So with this second U.S. Open win, how does it shape or change the narrative about what we think of Wyndham as a player?
Well, his prolific nature in victories is really kind of underrated. Since he won that first PGA Tour event, I think it was one of the years where Wells Fargo was moved, maybe. But
yes,
anyway,
correct.
Since then, the point is, since then, only Scottie and Rory have more PGA Tour wins than Wyndham Clark does in that span of 5 now. I was so impressed by his ability to. He held the lead for about 72 hours. He took it at about 7 o'clock Friday evening, and he had the outright lead literally the rest of the time. No one even got up to the point and tied him. I know it got close there at the end, but he really leaned a lot on his short game. Only 20 of 36 greens in regulation on the weekend. That's the fewest by a U.S. Open winner over rounds 3 and 4 since Martin Kaymer, who at Pinehurst, who was kind of in a similar position where he went out early, put up a great number in the first round and kind of held on. Wyndham had more depth of chasers behind him, and I think it was just so impressive. The 9 par putts he made on the weekend between 4 and 14 feet, just over and over again. It seemed like every time he needed to drill one of those, he did. So just super impressive. And when you think about his place in the game, it's hard to say he snuck up really on us, but this is a guy who has an incredibly high ceiling. He also can be streaky, so you can say he kind of has a lower floor than, say, a Scottie Scheffler or a Rory McIlroy. But he's an interesting case. And look, it's another testament to the fact that the U.S. Open has really rewarded power off the tee over the last decade or so. Wyndham's one of the longest guys on tour. He's not quite in the Rory Bryson type distance class, but he's just a little bit of a notch below that. He really can move it, to steal one of my phrases I like to use over and over again. So such an impressive weekend from Wyndham Clark, especially amidst the crowd reaction was crazy. I have never seen anything like that in terms of a player, an American player, a past U.S. Open champion on home soil. But it was kind of the perfect mix of, Wyndham's public faux pas or whatever over the last couple of years, coupled with the fact that you're playing with Scottie Scheffler trying to do something historic. I thought it was unfortunate, but he made a fan out of me with the way he reacted, with the way he talked about it after the fact, and especially his play. It was super impressive to me.
Yeah, we'll get to the boorish behavior in a minute, because that's something that has been dominating the conversation. Everybody here, outside of the expected news of what we got from Brian today. You mentioned moving it. A 274-yard approach on 16 with that little cut was pretty impressive. But the thing about Wyndham, which is really...
To that shot, I'll give you one number real quick. The field average from that range was about 62 feet for the week. He hit it inside 3 feet. Unbelievable golf shot.
It was one of the more ridiculous shots we've seen all year. So the thing about Wyndham, which I find interesting, if you go back and look at his performance in major championships, he either wins it or he's really a non-factor. Like it's not hit or miss, it's hit or who? And so do you think with the second one here, we're going to see more consistent play out of Wyndham when it comes to major championships?
Not necessarily. I mean, I still think that you can look at him as a contender, obviously, anytime he gets to a golf course. And look, he's been the hottest player on tour since the Masters ended, since maybe the beginning of May. He leads the PGA Tour in strokes gained putting since the Masters finished. So he's been on a hot streak. He rolls in there. The course fits him great, and he just went out and put together an unbelievable number on Thursday and was able to hold on. But in terms of being predictive of him consistently contending in the big events, like I said, high ceiling, but also a low floor. So I wouldn't be surprised if he picks off some more big victories, but to expect him to always be the Xander Schauffele in the top 10 basically every time we see one of these big championships come up, I think that's not quite the type of player that we can expect Wyndham Clark to be.
Speaking of that, Xander just teed off a few moments ago on the first hole here at the Travelers in his practice round. So got a chance to speak with him, and hopefully we'll have good things from him coming up this weekend. I had somebody say, do we see Wyndham Clark as an Andy North type player? And we love Andy, two-time U.S. Open champ. And I said, I don't think so, because he's already won. As you said, he's won 5 times. He's proven he can win. He won 11 under at the C.J. Byron Nelson when everyone was talking about the battle in first place between Siwoo Kim and Scottie Scheffler, and he just bulldozed everybody. I think he has the potential to be a more consistent winner and not just a guy that somehow finds a way to win 2 U.S. Opens.
Yeah, I think that look, and also love Andy North as a person, as a broadcaster,
Right.
and then a 2-time U.S. Open champion. But Wyndham Clark's ceiling is so much higher. He's the only player in the history of the PGA Tour to win twice with a final round of 60. I mean, he can get scorching hot, and that's what we saw when he beat the field average on Thursday by more than 9 shots, which is an obscene number, something like you only see maybe once a season in the major championships in the men's game. So I certainly put him a significant. That's not the right comparison for me. I mean, Wyndham's a guy he's gonna play on more Ryder Cup teams. He's not yet 30 years old. I still think there's a lot more winning for him to do in the game's biggest events.
Now, you mentioned he was paired with Scottie. Scottie was trying to complete the career Grand Slam, and we had a little bit of a charge Saturday that got him to within shouting distance and playing in that final group, and he made a couple of birdies when the backside got going on Sunday. The back 9 did, but then Wyndham just said no, and he basically just shut Scottie out with the way he played, and Scottie just couldn't hit any of those putts. And we're now talking about I know this sounds crazy, a drought of 12 straight events where Scottie Scheffler has not won since winning his first event on the year. We've talked about this a lot before on the show. Can you see anything outside of a slight deviation of his iron play not being as stellar as it has been, that would be a reason that Scottie is not converting on the same level we've seen over the last few years?
No. I mean, look, the putts just didn't fall, and he got beat by a guy having an unbelievable week. That's really all it was.
Yeah.
And look, I've shared the numbers about Scottie and his proximity to the hole. He's hitting fewer approach shots into that makeable birdie putt range than he has in years past. But look, we're going to the next major. Guess who's the defending champion? It's Scottie Scheffler.
Scottie Scheffler.
Like, I mean, look, he's set the bar so unbelievably high for himself in terms of the consistent greatness that we saw in the second half of last season, basically from the PGA through the end of the year, where he didn't finish outside the top 7 or 8 for some incredible amount of tournaments. That's not sustainable, because no one had done that since, I think it was Byron Nelson when he went on his crazy streak during and post World War II. So, look, that's not something you can expect from anybody, let alone, especially, I mean, it's a long-winded answer to your question, but no, I'm not worried, and I wouldn't be surprised if he won another Claret Jug here next month.
All right, so what do we think of Sam Burns now? This is the second straight U.S. Open he has been in this thing, and were it not for a questionable ruling at Oakmont on the 15th hole after that deluge, we might be having a different conversation about Sam coming into this year at Shinnecock as the defending U.S. Open champ. And then, of course, he put the round of the weekend together on Sunday. Shot a 67, got to within 1 at one point. Looked like he had great birdie opportunities on 17 and 18. Neither one of them fell. Do we see Sam Burns down the road as a guy who we think can absolutely push this thing over the goal line?
I think so, and I think I'd be surprised if he didn't get in the winner's circle before the end of the season. It's been a couple of years since he's won on the PGA Tour, but this is a Ryder Cup or a President's Cup player, a multiple-time winner. He was a star in college. This scar tissue happens for great players, right? You kind of you gotta lose before you know how to learn how to win, and that's kind of what we've seen the last couple of years. Now, I wouldn't even call what Sam did Sunday losing, because he played arguably probably the best round of the day. He was just having 7 shots going into the final round. It would have equaled the largest final round comeback in the history of the U.S. Open if he was able to get it done. It's just simply it was too much to bite off there on that Sunday. Too much to ask. So I thought he played excellent. It's definitely heartbreak, especially when you have those 2 birdie opportunities. You end up 1 shot out of a playoff. But overall, it's a big positive for him for the week. And like I said, I would be surprised if he didn't get in the winner's circle here within the next couple of months.
So if it's a big positive for Sam, it was another negative. And now it's not a ton of people, but it was enough for it to be a problem. boorish behavior on the golf course. And our friend Eamon Lynch of the Golf Channel made a really interesting point, I thought. He said, this doesn't happen everywhere this way, and it doesn't really happen in New York. It specifically happens in Long Island. And we can go back to Bethpage Black and the Ryder Cup, and that was way over the top. We can go back to what you said earlier. We're talking about an American player trying to defend the United States Open on U.S. soil and being treated as if he was an infidel, an invader. I don't think that Eamon's that far off here. There seems to be a certain caricature of a Long Island golf fan that is out there wanting to make it about him as opposed to somebody else. How do we corral this? Because I don't care if you don't like the guy or whatever, but do it with class and do it in a way that's interesting and funny and not just freaking stupid and ignorant.
So I would compare what we saw, if you're looking at it from something in recent major championship history, to the way Brian Harman was kind of, when he kind of was in a similar position at the Open Championship a few years ago. You know, he got off to a big lead. He was he was kind of an unpopular player at the top of the board overseas at the Open Championship, but there wasn't cheering when he missed greens in regulation. There wasn't, cheering for bad shots and yelling, "Get in the bunker." It was more just, subdued clapping. It was a much more golf-friendly, courteous type way of being negative, if that makes any sense. It wasn't.
No, it does. It does make a ton of sense.
And look, Long Island golf has some major PR work to do for themselves, because the last two times that we've all been out there, it's been pretty unraveling and pretty unnerving. So, I just thought of something too. Like, do you think possibly because of the access to get on trains that folks were able to kind of let loose a little bit more when it comes to drinking, because they knew they
little sun cruiser, little
something, maybe that's got an aspect to it. But that's just really a kind of a theory I'd float. But really unfortunate. But look, it adds to kind of what Wyndham was able to achieve, to go out there and essentially win a road game. The text I sent to you was, New York's villain the week before was Wimby, and then New York's villain that week was Windy. So someone tries to be a writer. But yeah, it was wild to see for a guy with the resume that Wyndham has. But all the confluence of things, including him saying Saturday he was disappointed in the crowds being not very big.
They left before he got to the. They left before he got to the 18th green.
And honestly, that was more of a logistical thing, because the last train out of there left at about 6:00. So and look, Shinnecock's not an easy place to get to. The first day, Tuesday, when I got out there, I think it's going to be 2.5 hours to get to the golf course from my hotel. Oof. So it got better as the week progressed, but it was a logistical challenge. And I just think it was a perfect storm of a lot of different elements that kind of added up to what we saw on Sunday.
Now, as I used to call it growing up, the LIE, the world's largest parking lot. So I understand. I understand the issues that go along with that.
I spent some time in that parking lot on the way to the airport yesterday.
Exactly. I bet you did. So there's a lot to get into there. We can have that discussion going forward, because I can remember people getting on Brooks in the 2018 PGA Championship at Bethpage, and frickin' hit it Sergio at the 2009 U.S. Open.
They treated Wyndham worse than they treated Monty. I mean, it was just
for a minute.
Unbelievable.
Think about that for a minute. Yeah, guys, you know he plays for our team, right? Just so we're clear. So anyway, we'll see what happens there going forward.
Support for today's episode comes from Square. You know how you can tell pretty quickly if a business is run well now? No, it's not the logo. It's not the size of the place. It's about the experience. Look, at a golf course, you make the turn, grab a hot dog, a drink, maybe something stronger if your front nine didn't go the way you wanted it to. Tap your phone, maybe earn a few loyalty points, and get back to the 10th tee. That flow, that staying in rhythm, it matters, because nobody wants friction, but behind that simple moment is a lot of operation, payments, staffing, inventory, and that's where Square makes sense. Square is not just a take a payment and move on. In 2025, Square processed about $250 billion in payment volume across its seller ecosystem. And that lines up with how we do things here at the Wingo Network. No hot takes, no nonsense. Show me what works. Show me the numbers. Show me the the system. If you're starting a business or running one that deserves better tools, Square helps you sell, manage, and grow without slowing down. And as a bonus right now, you can get up to $200 off Square hardware at square.com/go/wingo. That's SQUARE.com/GO/WINGO. Run your business smarter with Square. Get started today. Hey, just want to take a minute to thank this week's sponsor, Cozy Earth. Look, I'll be honest with you. I've been living in this stuff. Been traveling a lot this week. You know the deal, dealing with heat, trying to function. And any comfort is not optional for me anymore. I demand it. I need to feel comfortable so I can be my best. The Everywhere Pant and the Everyday Polo are just amazing. That's basically my travel uniform right now. Light, breathable, doesn't wrinkle no matter how long I'm sitting on a plane or in a production truck or whatever I'm doing. And the bamboo sheet set, oh my goodness. After a week like this, getting into those when I get home, that's not nothing, trust me. They're awesome. One thing one customer told me is that they bought these pants 3 times. Not once, twice, but 3 times because they were that comfortable. I get it, man. I'm right there with them. And that's the most important thing for me. Cozy Earth backs all of their stuff, by the way. 100-night sleep trial, lifetime warranty on the clothing, easy returns if that's not right. But trust me, it's going to be right. Summer should feel easy for everyone in the house. Cozy Earth's bamboo sheet set, Everywhere Pant, Everyday Polo are designed to keep me cool, comfortable, and actually relaxed all summer long. Head to CozyEarth.com and use my code WINGO for an exclusive 20% off. That's code WINGO for an exclusive 20% off. And if you see a post-purchase survey that mentions how you heard about Cozy Earth, say you heard it right here. And those are straight facts, homie.